Experience hospitality the Northwest way at the Everglades Hotel. Located on the banks of the River Foyle, the Everglades Hotel is just minutes from the centre of Derry, Londonderry, with free on-site guest car parking. Whether you're here for a family meal, a big celebration, or simply a peaceful retreat, will make your experience as memorable as the sights in the city. Visit Everglades Hotel Derry for accommodation bookings, the latest menus, live shows and events, and much, much more. See you there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gaelic Lives podcast. We're just after the Ulster final review show on Monday, and we're straight in to the All Ireland and the Tailteann Cup series. John, it's there's not much of a break between it; it just keeps going.
No, it does. It's quite relentless this time of year, but that's what you want as a player and as a fan. There's not too much, big gaps in between games. So each weekend there's competitive games coming up, and it's great for fans across the country as well.
And we have four games involving Ulster teams this week. We have two in the All Ireland series and two in the Tailteann Cup. So we have Clare and Down coming up on Sunday, and Cavan and Mayo on Sunday as well. They're both in the All Ireland series, and then the two Tailteann Cup games are Antrim against Limerick and Longford against Fermanagh. So, John, obviously former Down footballer, you're looking forward to talking about Down and Clare and Down. After last year's Tailteann Cup success, they're back in the All Ireland series, and this is where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's took Down 2 years to get back here, and that's probably from Conor Lowry and his team come in. That's their aim was to get back competing for Sam Maguire. So they lost the Tailteann Cup final in the first year, but won it last year. And the big prize in the back of that was getting into the race for Sam, So they'll be really looking forward to this challenge coming up. Obviously, the disappointment of the Ulster semi final. They showed plenty of good stuff in that match against Donegal. But I'm sure they've had 2 or 3 really good weeks training since that. And ultimately, it's a group we're down. We'll be looking at to see they can get definite progress and hopefully get out of the group and get to at least a preliminary quarter final, So they'll take huge confidence from that draw. Listen, every team in that group will be feeling the same, that it's very winnable and very doable for them to qualify. So it's a very evenly matched group out of them all. So yeah, down will be looking to get up and running on Sunday with a win.
I think as maybe Down supporters, John, you'd have been looking at a Kerry or Dublin or Galway in the group just to get coming up against one of them big teams. But as you say, that group, it's obviously Down, Clare, Louth, and Monaghan. So it's definitely a winnable group for, as you say, all the teams in it. They'll all be looking for that top spot.
Oh, they will, absolutely. And you're right. You listen, Down didn't hide from the fact they would love to have a Kerry or Dublin in Uri just to really get the excitement back within the county. There's been the Down supporters haven't been coming out in huge numbers in recent years, so they maybe hope that draw, maybe to bring a big gun to Uri. But listen, if they can get out of this group, the buzz will be back, believe me. So, and even Louth coming to Uri, it's going to be a big occasion as well. Louth coming on the back of their Leinster Championship success will bring a huge following up the road. So that'll be a big one in Uri in a couple of weeks, But starting on Sunday in Ennis, I think it's a must win for Down, And Clare will be feeling the same. They will definitely be thinking it's a game. They'll have got over their disappointment. It's a Munster final defeat to Kerry, and they'll be very much looking till get up and run on the home soil. But it's a game if Down play the way they did for the last probably 10 minutes against Fermanagh and in patches as they did against Donegal, I think they will get the win. But Ennis is traditionally a tough place to go. Down in Clare haven't a huge history in championship or league football. They've been pretty evenly matched. So Down to be under no illusions. Ennis is a really tough place to go and get a result, particularly in championship football.
Yeah, I was talking to you offer, John, and you were saying you were still involved the last time Down actually played Clare in the championship. It was 2011, and it was small margins that day. I think he's come out with a point to spur.
Yeah, it was very close. I think Conor Lavery actually cleared a ball off the line in the last couple of minutes of that game till save Down from what would have been an embarrassing defeat at that stage in the backdoor qualifiers, So listen, Conor and his team, Marty, and that'll know that it's going to be a tough test for them on Sunday down there. But I'm sure there'll be a right bit of Down support go down as well and try and get the lads up and running and get them over the line. But listen, it's where they want to be. It's where they want to be competing, and they'll be trying to grasp this opportunity on Sunday to get up and running.
And the Donegal semi-final you referenced, John, a couple of times. I suppose we've seen Donegal, they're now the Ulster champions. They're probably they're definitely one of the favourites for the All-Ireland. There are a lot of people's favourites for the All-Ireland, and Down ran them close, 6 points in it in the end. Down probably passed up goal scoring opportunities, which isn't like them. So what will Down take from that Donegal defeat? And they've had a couple of weeks now, I suppose, to review it and go through it and get ready for the first round of the All-Ireland series.
Yeah, no, they will have taken confidence, having run them so close. They're ultimately very disappointed that he didn't get over the line, because I think the belief in the camp was that they could have got a result that day, and their game plan was pretty much set up to do that. And it's just, as you said, the execution, a couple of big chances, that was the difference in the game. Donegal took their goal chance down, squandered a couple of theirs. So it was probably that wee bit of craft and that wee bit of experience in the final third that got Donegal over the line. So that'll be something Down will really be trying to work on. And they have been good, in fairness, under Connor in recent years, taking those goal chances. So Sunday, if they get 2 or 3 goal chances, they're going to have to take them till get out of Venice with anything. But listen, they will take big belief from that performance against Donegal, that they can really have an impact in this All Ireland series.
And I suppose when we're talking about last days out, like Clare lost pretty heavily, pretty convincingly to Kerry, who are another obviously top All Ireland contender. So I suppose for Clare, they're probably happy that they have a home game. They don't have to hit the road this weekend, but they're maybe mentally fragile. Would that be the way to put it down? We'll be hoping that, in the early stages they can maybe put Clare in the back foot.
Yeah, no, Clare, it was a weird enough game, the Kerry game. Kerry had the game done and dusted by half time, and Clare could have rolled over and got absolutely hammered. But they showed a wee bit of spirit, a wee bit of fight to get back into that game. And they've enough experience, enough quality players like Owen Cleary and Keelan Sexton and Kieran Downey. No players up front that can cause any team in the country trouble. So they'll have regrouped. And Peter King, they have a very shrewd manager who will know what it's all about to bounce back through the back door as such, and try and get a run in the championship. So he'll have them full of belief and believing that if they can get over the line on Sunday against Down, it'll revive their season again, and they've every chance of having an impact as the summer progresses.
I suppose Down will be looking to their big men as usual. You have like Owen Murdoch, obviously a key man, Pat Haverin, but you have the likes of Eugene Brannigan, who was outstanding the last day. You have the goalkeeper Rory Burns, who has been outstanding in the championship. So while there's the big men that need to step up as usual, John, Down do maybe have a few. I don't want to call them lesser lights, but maybe lesser known players that were brilliant against Donegal too.
Yeah, they do, and you mentioned Eugene there. He's starting to find a bit of form at county level to replicate his club form for Kilcoo. Young Burns has been a real find for them as well. Daniel Guinness is really leading the charge around the middle there as well. James Guinness as well. So there'll be lads there who will see this as an opportunity to see, can they take their game to the next level, and it's okay competing well in Tailteann Cup, but this is the big stage. That this is where you sort of show your true worth and your true value as an inter-county player. And anybody growing up wanting to play for Down, you always wanted to compete at the highest level and compete for Sam Maguire. So this is the ideal chance now on Sunday for those lads to go and show what they've got.
And how do you see it going, John? Do you see Down? Well, we spoke about Ennis being a tough place to go. Do you think will Down get over the line?
I think they will. I think they will get over the line, but it's going to be a very, very tense, tight game, And if Down can settle early, get a few scores on the board, get their big players like Haven and Murdoch on the scoreboard early, I just think they can bring serious energy, and that'll bring serious belief for the rest of the game. But if they give Clare energy early on, with the home crowd behind them, and Ennis traditionally a tight enough pitch, it could be a difficult evening. But I think Down will do enough, and I think they'll get over the line with 2 or 3 points.
So to say that's in Ennis on Sunday at 2 o'clock. Then in Castlebar on Sunday at 2:30, Calvin travel to Mayo. And I suppose, John, the big question for us going into this game is where are Calvin at the minute, because probably disappointing against Tyrone in the Ulster quarter final, and they've had a bit of a wait. I think that was the 12th or the 13th of April. So they've had a bit of a wait maybe to lick their wounds or whatever else from that. But if you recall that Tyrone game, like Calvin were disappointing, John, so they'll be coming out sort of all guns blazing on Sunday, trying to improve that.
There will be, yeah. And in fairness, it did show a bit of spirit in the second half and showed a bit of character to hang in there and mounted some sort of comeback. But ultimately, they weren't at their true best in that game against Tyrone. The break maybe was a good thing for them. You know, I'm not sure. Maybe they went back and played a bit of club football, blew the cobwebs away, and I'm sure Raymond Gallagher and his team will have them hungry and fresh for the challenge ahead. And it's a big ask to go to Castlebar, a seasoned Mayo team, but listen, Cavan is probably a free hit for them. You know, nobody's expecting them to go down there and put up much. But if they can put up a performance, and you just never know, Mayo will be coming off the back of that disappointing kind of final loss as well. They'd have had a shorter time to get over that. So, you know, very much Cavan. I wouldn't rule out Cavan causing some sort of upset, but they need their big player, Jared McKiernan and co, to really have probably the game of their lives down there. But listen, I think they'd be quietly confident of causing, if not an upset, pushing Mayo really close in that game.
I think when the draw was made, Group 4 was labelled the group of death. That's Galway, Armagh, Dublin, and Derry. But this group isn't easy either, John, because Cavan, they've Mayo this week, then they've Donegal and Tyrone, two Ulster derbies coming up after that. So it's certainly not an easy group for Cavan.
It's not, and all the teams in that group will be in Cavan to beat Cavan, and then at least to get a preliminary quarter final. You know, so Cavan very much up against it in all those games. But Cavan, as we all know, proud county, a lot of good footballers there. They'll be aiming to take a couple of big scalps there and very much keep themselves in the mix for that All Ireland quarter final place.
I think the Ulster derbies coming up are the ones that sort of stand out. You nearly, I don't think it's maybe not must win on Sunday against Mayo, but it's the Ulster derbies are just so, we know how competitive the Ulster Championship is. So it's maybe a breath of fresh air for Calvin to get playing somebody else outside of one of the Ulster teams.
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, the Ulster Championship, everybody knows how competitive it is, and it's maybe the draw Cavan didn't want. They probably didn't want to draw a couple of Ulster teams, but it is what it is. But this Sunday's definitely a free hit for them, and you'd hope they put up a big performance and try and push Mayo.
And I suppose we spoke about Clarke coming in. Obviously, they got a bit of a tanking in the Munster final. Mayo really put it up to Galway in the Connacht final, and maybe unlucky just to lose out in the end. So, do you see Mayo? Are they still genuine All Ireland contenders, John, or how do you see them?
They're a funny one. I think they are definitely a top 6, 7 in the country. On their day, they can beat anybody, but on the flip side of that, you know, they are capable of a couple of bad performances here and there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they react on the back of that. Just a couple of big calls didn't go for them in that Connacht final. They could have easily been Connacht champions again, but they've serious quality in that team, serious experience there as well, and they'll know how to navigate their way to the quarter final. And then once they get there, anything's possible for Mayo. You never know. Sometimes when Mayo's hyped up to be this is their year, they under deliver, and maybe when nobody's expecting to come, they sort of come under the radar and really go for it. So you definitely can't rule Mayo out from having a big say in the remaining games in the All Ireland series.
I think that's you've summed up nearly how the preview for the Connacht final was in terms of Mayo that Galway's All Ireland contender, they're going to win All Ireland, so they'll beat Mayo, but Mayo come out all guns blazing and suddenly they have a game in their
Yeah.
hands.
No, totally. And listen, Galway are probably in the top 3 at the minute in Ireland. So that game in Castlebar will be an interesting one on Sunday. There's no doubt about that.
How do you see Calvin Furran, John? Do you think will they get over the line or?
I think Mayo will do enough. They'll do enough and probably get over the line with a 4 or 5 point win. But I'll not be surprised if Cavan pushed them maybe a wee bit closer than that. And who knows, maybe Naba draw or victory down there.
Experience hospitality the Northwest way at the Everglades Hotel. Located on the banks of the River Foyle, the Everglades Hotel is just minutes from the centre of Derry, London Derry, with free on-site guest car parking. Whether you're here for a family meal, a big celebration, or simply a peaceful retreat, will make your experience as memorable as the sights in the city. Visit Everglades Hotel Derry for accommodation bookings, the latest menus, live shows and events, and much, much more. See you there.
And as we said, they're the two All Ireland series games. There's also two Tailteann Cup games, and it's Antrim on Saturday evening at 4:30. They take on Limerick, and it's in Corrigan Park, so Antrim will have home advantage. But I suppose they're heading into this game, John. They suffered a tough defeat to Westmeath last week, a 4-24 to 117 loss, and I suppose Westmeath are probably one of the favourites for the Tailteann Cup. They showed brilliantly in the last couple of years at the All Ireland series. They crashed out at the group stages, but they give the likes of Armagh, Tyrone, Gary their fill of it. So Antrim could nearly. Is it nearly writing that off and going again because they've Limerick now this week and London, which are two very, very winnable games?
Yeah, no, listen, it was a tough defeat for Antrim last weekend. They were probably coming off the back of that positive performance against Armagh in the Ulster Championship, so they would have expected a bit more probably, and the manner of the defeat wouldn't have pleased the management team. But ultimately, they are eyeing up these next couple of games to try and, Antrim after that performance against Armagh have been really looking to get to at least the Tailteann Cup semi-final. So how they react this weekend, their home advantage, you'd expect them to bounce back. It's vital they bounce back, because if they don't, then all of a sudden Antrim's season can become very flat and very disappointing. So if they can get back on track this weekend, it still gives them hope. Westmeath, no doubt, are one of the main favourites for the Tailteann Cup. Are probably unlucky to be in the Tailteann Cup. They could as easily be competing in the All Ireland series. So they're a seasoned team as well, who were unlucky to get relegated from two. So this will be hopefully a game where Antrim can bounce back and get their season back on track. And you'd hope that Corrigan Park will have a decent crowd out on Saturday evening. Obviously, it'll not be a full house like the Armagh game, but if we can get some of the fans back that were there for the Armagh game, that should do enough to get Antrim back on track.
I think Luke Loughlin for Westmeath kicked 117 or something ridiculous last week, John. So I suppose in the Tailteann Cup, Antrim, they're not going to face that type of forward every week. So as we said, Westmeath they're just one of the top teams in it, and Antrim home advantage is going to be key, as you said, but they're not coming up against one of them top hitters in Limerick, and Antrim probably going to go into this game as favourites.
They will. No Limerick. By all accounts, have had a fairly up and down season, but Antrim, it's a must win for them. If they're serious about having an impact in the Tailteann Cup, like they've been in around it the past 3 or 4 years, not far away. Andy McEntee will really be circling this, like, lads, we need to get to at least the semi final here to prove our worth and show what we're about here. So I expect them to probably win by 6 or 7 points here on Saturday evening.
I think the four Ulster games we're talking about this week, John, Antrim are the only team with that actually have home advantage. The rest are all away. Like, home advantage is huge in the All Ireland series and the Tailteann Cup, isn't it? In the group stages, that if you win your home game, well, you're guaranteed that preliminary round draw at the latest. So I suppose it's key to get up and running here for Antrim on home turf.
No, it is home advantage, and the likes of down having to travel till Ennis this weekend. Like, it's a 2 day journey, and you have to plan an overnight stay, and there's a lot of logistical organisation around that as well. So, listen, Antrim will be delighted they don't have to make the trek to Limerick. I'm sure it was a tough trip home from Westmeath last weekend. So, listen, Antrim need to win this weekend, and I think they will.
So moving on to the Longford and Fermanagh game then. This is Sunday at 3 p.m. and Fermanagh, we're talking about how important home advantage is. Fermanagh lost their first home game to Carlow, probably one of the upsets of the weekend, last weekend. Fermanagh will be disappointed that, they're not going into this game looking 2 from 2. You'd have felt that in their group, they were probably the favourites to top it, and they're now sort of on the back foot, John.
No, they are. That was a surprise result last weekend. There's no two ways about it. Fermanagh coming off the back of that performance against Down, where they were very unlucky. I don't know. I thought that would have given them a bit of a bounce, but obviously it's taken them a while to maybe get over that defeat. Such the manner of defeat. There's probably a bit of a hangover still regarding that defeat, but that was a real shock last weekend, particularly in Brewster Park, to concede 3-20. I think Carrow scored. So listen, Kieran Donnelly and his team will not have been happy on that performance. So you'd expect them to get back on track this weekend. But again, Longford is a place where plenty of teams better than Fermanagh have come in championship football. The likes of Monaghan and Derry Down over the years have lost down in Pierce Park, in the back door. So Longford have a proud home record, particularly in championship football, and they'll have shown enough signs last weekend against Wexford to know that they can really put it to Fermanagh here at the weekend. So Fermanagh are going to be up against it, but you'd expect a reaction from Fermanagh. They're bound to be hurting. I'm sure there's been a few critics out this week in the local press and whatever else. So you'd expect Fermanagh to react, and that could be maybe the joke that maybe they needed last weekend, that defeat, to maybe kickstart their Tailteann Cup campaign. But it's a tough one to call this, but I just think the heart of last weekend should do enough for Fermanagh to get a reaction down in Longford.
I think I remember us saying on the review show, John, after them Ulster Championship games about, how well Antrim competed against Armagh and how well Fermanagh done against Down, that, it was all about carrying that into the Tailteann Cup. Now it's nearly, that didn't mean anything if you don't go on and push on in the Tailteann Cup. And that's probably how Fermanagh are going to feel this week. As you say, they're going to have the bit between the teeth maybe that they've showed against Down, that they're good enough to compete with the likes of Down, who have won the Tailteann Cup, who are up competing in the All-Ireland series now. It's about showing that in the Tailteann Cup and getting to the knockout stages and further.
No, it is. And listen, maybe Fermanagh believe maybe a bit of their own hype on the back of that game, that maybe they were one of the favourites for the Tailteann Cup, rightly so. But, maybe there was a bit of complacency last weekend, that was just a matter of turning up against Carlow and getting the win, but it didn't happen that way. So I'm sure they'll be hurting from that defeat and maybe the backlash after it. So Fermanagh have enough quality. I've seen them against Down. They've enough experience about the camp there to know a win this weekend very much gets their Tailteann Cup campaign back on track, but Longford will be thinking similar as well. So it's an interesting game. That one there is probably the pick of the Tailteann Cup games this weekend. So, but I just feel that Fermanagh will have enough know-how to get the job done and get back up the road and have their Tailteann Cup campaign kick-started.
And John, that's all our previews of the game sort of. But just before I let you go, just on the All-Ireland series, we were speaking about some of the top contenders, and it's the All-Ireland series kicking off this week. There's the group stages, then the knockout phase, and all up before we get to Croke Park. Who do you see as the favourites for All-Ireland? If you had to make a call now, who do you see lifting Sam?
It's difficult, and it's which is good. Traditionally you would have maybe picked one or two teams, but now there's probably four or five teams in the mix. But if you're coming probably down to the top two at the minute, it's hard to see past Donegal and Kerry. I think Kerry have a array of talent that no other team has, particularly in the attacking third of the field. The serious players they have there, and potential for scoring, particularly with the new rules and that. I think it's really suited to the Kerry kicking style of game, and again that quality of players. Donegal seem to be simmering nicely. They'll not be content with Sunday's Ulster or Saturday evening's Ulster final. They want more. Ultimately Jim McGuinness is in there to bring another Sam Maguire back to Donegal. So they'll have probably celebrated Sunday and Monday, but they'll be back down to business knowing that there's a bigger picture. And I just feel that they probably have learnt from last year's defeat to Galway as well in the All Ireland semi, that that they aren't far away and they've learnt lessons from that. So if you're asking me top two, at the minute I'm going to say Kerry slightly, Donegal not far behind him, and then you've a pick off probably. It's hard to rule out Dublin. Armagh will be there or thereabouts as well. Galway, obviously, Mayo. There's teams there that can get a couple of wins under their belts over the next couple of weeks. They'll gain real momentum heading towards an All Ireland quarter final stage, and once you're at that stage, then anything can really happen. But it's hard to see past Kerry at the minute.
John, brilliant stuff. That's all for our preview show. We'll be back on Monday as usual, and we'll be looking back on all the action from across the All Ireland series, the Tailteann Cup, and everything else with our usual highlights on our review show. So, John, thanks for coming on, and we'll chat to everybody else on Monday.
Thanks, Sean.